It's time for ProAm Predictions.
Hello and welcome back to ProAm Predictions. I am Paul O'D and I am on the amateur side, and this week we have a special guest representing the professional side. We have Ryan the Hulk Spillane. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm the Guts and Glory alternative. If you ever stuck, Ryan always gets the text.
To be fair, I have to give you credit. When yourself and Liam filled in for us, you were almost bang on with your picks. I think you were one out.
I technically say I was all because the fucking the Weidman fight was.
Yeah,
a freak accident.
It's a freak accident, but he was still going to lose the fight, let's be fair.
Nah.
This week we do have Bellator 259 and UFC Vegas 27. There's a bit of interest for you on that Bellator card. I believe there's a heavyweight fight early on the card that you were looking at. We'll just go down to it there.
Gavin Franklin and Tyler King.
And this is quite an interesting one for you because you'll see there that Davian Franklin is 2-0 and he's taking on Tyler King, who's 12-9, which just goes to show that Bellator are willing to put in guys that through their professional careers would be maybe seen as a little bit green.
And Davian's one of their it's one of their homegrown because I'm pretty sure all of his fights have been through Bellator.
Just check it out there now, but
I'm pretty sure that he's a Bellator man, for them to put someone like that who they're one of their homegrown stars and put them against, and the whole card you can look at it that a lot of Bellator's stars are fighting each other. So the whole thing about Bellator's matchmaking being one-sided, that argument goes to the window with this card.
I think there seems to be a change in the trend, all right. And look, they have been guilty of it in the past, and
every show is. No one ever is, completely fair on all matchmaking. UFC can be said.
UFC have built up a few stars by putting tin cans in front of them. Let's be fair,
everyone has, but the whole fact now they have you have Brett Johns is on the card. He's fighting that fella Danny Spedo who he got this week alone. That fight changed. That's a very tough fight. You have Liam Cord and Jenna Harden who are both absolute superstars and they're fighting each other.
For me, there's two on this card that stood out to me as very strange matchmaking, and not in the sense that yes, they're two stars that at some point they're going to fight, but I just think it might be a little bit early. I think this one, and I said it to you earlier, the Vanderford and the Fabian Edwards one as well, just purely because they're crying out for contenders in that division, and both guys are in the top 5.
I think it's down to the fact that the rankings were released. So now you have to have your 5 and 6 guy fight, or your fight. It has to be a linear progression now because the rankings are there, so you can't deny your rankings. If someone's 5, they have to fight number 4, or 3 or 2 or 1. They can't really be fighting 6, 7,
non-ranked guys, or
you can't be doing that because then you look like you're building up a fighter. But now because of the rankings, I feel the guys have to fight the tough competitions, and it may not flesh out of some divisions, but it makes more exciting fights.
I think for the first couple of months, and we've seen a little bit of it, I think for the first maybe 6 months, they will get away with some guys fighting outside of the rankings. Like, for example, Brian Moore wasn't in the rankings initially, and there was a few guys, like Brett Johns isn't in the rankings at the moment. There's a few guys that are outside that do deserve to be in it, but I think, like you say, in 6 months, it'll be very different, and it'll be competing against each other.
Starting out, guys like Brett Johns now have to earn their way. I know Brett Johns is an unbelievable athlete, and he was destined to go to UFC and all that, and now he's in Bellator. But I think now with the fact now he's not in the rankings, it makes a kind of a task for him to get onto the rankings. So it makes everyone because it's top 10, it's not your top 15 or the UFC. I think it goes to 20 or 15 or 20.
10 in 15 in the UFC, 10 in Bellator.
But it's 10, so you have to get onto that 10. So it's kind of like everyone wants to be on the 10. Everyone wants to be number 1. But it makes guys who sign have to fight to get the way in. They don't just get an automatic spot on it just because they're a superstar or whatever,
Yeah, 100%. To touch on some of the fights, so we're going to cover 3 fights from Bellator 259, and we're also going to look at 3 fights from UFC Vegas 27 on Saturday night. And just to get things started, I suppose we look at the main event in Bellator 259. You have Cris Cyborg taking on Leslie Smith. Cris Cyborg, look, I mean, what can we say about the woman? She's been doing it forever, and she's a champion through and through. The only major loss, and I think the reason that she's not getting the credit now that she did for so many years is that loss to Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, but Amanda Nunes is a different beast. She's
this is it. She's different. She's world class. I think Amanda Nunes beats most guys at 135 and 145 pounds. And it's interesting matchmaking because the pair have met before. And Leslie Smith, of course, 12-8-1. She's 2-1 with Bellator now. She's actually had that extra fight experience than Cris Cyborg since she signed over. She's had some tough fights. She has a loss to Arlene Blencoe since signing for Bellator. And she's gone 4-1. That was her only loss since the Cyborg loss. She's looked vastly improved from that version of Leslie Smith. But I just think it's too big a task for Leslie Smith to be taking on Cyborg, and I can see this one being finished early. I think Cris Cyborg has gone 7-1 since then, which just goes to show she's not noted for activity, but she's remained active over the last few years.
Also, the last time they fought, Leslie gave out about an early stoppage, and she was kind of raving about all that. But that was also the fight that Cyborg had the awful weight cut.
Yeah,
the one that had all the videos went up of it, and she was almost dying on the floor and all that. Like, so it was a tough fight for both of them, but like, it was an early stoppage. She would have killed her after that point. It
was only going one way anyway. Yeah. It was, you could argue, maybe an early stoppage because she was still defending herself, but she'd taken a lot of punishment. I wouldn't be against that stoppage in any way, shape, or form. How do you see this one going?
I'm thinking it has to be an early stoppage. I'm thinking it can't go past round 2. I think it'll be round 1 or early round 2. I don't see it going past that. Yeah, I see a stoppage. I see a standing stoppage. I see maybe pushing her against the fence and then kind of just like, where they
laying it on,
where they huddle up. I think that kind of stoppage. But let's talk about how Leslie Smith got the chance against Cyborg and Sinead Kavanagh didn't, because I think that's absolute robbery.
The only argument Leslie Smith has there is the victory over Sinead Kavanagh.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Sinead Kavanagh is the one, and I think people are starting to learn now that she's the one that will stand and throw hands.
Oh, Sinead will.
with Cyborg. And she's probably the only girl in the division that's capable of doing that right now. I mean, look, you have Julia Budd, who's had a massive career there. You have, you have the possibility of Megan Anderson signing.
Yeah. Which
is a fight we wanted to see for some time. There are some contenders there, but I think for just purely based on the stylistic match of the fight, I think Kavanagh is 100% should be next.
This sets up beautifully if all the rumours are going well of a European revisit in September, kind of December-ish, of a main card where you have Queally fighting for title, Kavanagh fighting for title, and Gallagher fighting for title.
Could easily happen. Very easily happen.
That's a card.
I don't know if Bellator have ever done 3 title fights on a card, not to my memory.
Yeah, but like
this is the one to do it.
If you're going to do it, it has to be Dublin. Has to be when a return to fans. Dublin has to be it. I think that'd be class. But it sets up beautifully for that. Yeah, it has to be. It has to be a first round, second round stoppage. I don't see going third, and I don't see going decision.
Yeah, for me, I think it's first. I think Cyborg has kind of looked probably more impressive since she signed for Bellator than she did to even take the Amanda Nunes fight out of it.
Yeah,
she's just looked kind of
more
comfortable, and like she's found her love of MMA again. There was times in the UFC when she was being asked to fight at 140 pounds and all this was going on. I don't think she was ever truly comfortable in the UFC, and she was never made feel wanted there. Yeah. So I think we're going to see the best version of Cris Cyborg for however many fights she has left in her career.
Yeah, she's got a good few left in her. I think she maybe 5, 6, kind of left in her. I think. Obviously, if Megan Anderson signs, that'll be a huge one. And there's big opportunities. There's a lot of fighters are the UFC aren't really treating the girls as well.
No, and especially that 145 division.
Yeah,
you have this weekend. Your Felicia Spencer is taking on Norma Dumont, and the only other 2 girls signed currently at 145 pounds are Leah Letson and the 1-0 boxer Danielle Wolf.
Yeah.
Any one of those girls could end up in Bellator very shortly, being that the 145 pound division is gone.
And it's a huge division in Bellator, it's a good proving ground for the girls to go over there.
Definitely, there are some fights left for Cris Cyborg. So we both think early stoppage there. Yeah. We'll move on to the co-main event in that one. This is a fantastic fight at 135 pounds. We have Darian Caldwell moving back down in weight after being unsuccessful in the featherweight Grand Prix. But to be noted as well that he got to the semi-final and lost to AJ McKee, who is still undefeated, looks just unbeatable to this point. Yeah. We'll find out obviously when he fights Pitbull. But Caldwell, he went on a 2-fight win streak before that, obviously in the in the
Risen Grand Prix, wasn't it?
No, it was in the Bellator Grand Prix. But he did have before that. He did the crossover with Horiguchi and lost twice to Horiguchi.
Yeah, but Horiguchi's an absolute.
Horiguchi is a different beast altogether. Yeah, of course. But I do believe 135 pounds is his weight, and he's going in against Higo, and there's a lot of hype around Higo. But he's 3-3 overall in Bellator. He went 1-1 earlier in his career in the UFC, and he's struggled against the bigger names in that division.
Was it Higo's last fight against Ricky, or was it
Ricky Bandejas? Yeah. So he's on a 2-fight win streak, but I can't see any way other than Caldwell picking up a victory here. You kind of touched on Uditiri.
I think submission. I think round 2 submission will be kind of a good call. I think he gets. I think he takes him down, gets tough him. I think the jiu-jitsu then is just superior to Caldwell. Like, I think he gets him and submits him. What submission?
Could be anything.
It could be anything. But I see him just put enough pressure on him when he gets him to the ground. It could be round 2, could be round 3. I don't really see it going decision. I see him finishing him. It could go. It will more likely go decision, but I see him finishing him with a submission. I don't see him. I don't see the fight being a stand-up fight. I see it going to the floor. I see him winning the jiu-jitsu exchanges. Yeah,
see, I do believe that Caldwell has an advantage on the mat, but I think Higo is good enough to get him the distance.
Yeah.
And look, Higo in himself has 13 submission victories in his career. He's definitely no slouch down there. But I do see it going to decision. I think Darian will pick up a decision here, and with that become ranked, because he's also not ranked at 135 pounds. Yeah. So you could have 2 new faces in the rankings with Darian Caldwell if he picks up a victory, and Brett Johns if he picks up a victory at 135 pounds, which makes things very interesting.
So do you see Brett Johns fighting the winner of this fight, or?
That would actually be a very interesting fight. Yeah, I think Brett Johns with a couple of victories could be on a fast track to a title as well. There's a few around that area from maybe 8 to 15, and because of the criteria of the rankings, they never really got their shot right off the bat. So I don't think the initial 135 pound rankings were very true to form. But I think we're going to see over the next, because there has been a lot of bantamweight fights, the title has switched hands in the last few weeks. I think there'll be a lot of change within the next 6 months, and we'll have 2 or 3 clear contenders there in that 135 pound division.
I think a win from Caldwell in this fight puts him in number 1 spot. Like puts him after obviously the Grand Prix finishes. I see then.
Yeah.
I see a title fight then.
It's very close considering he's a former champion and he went in against Horiguchi. I do think he's right there.
Yeah.
And I mean, we go back to after the last event, we had Rofi and Stotts, and people were saying that he's possibly next in line. For me, he didn't look that impressive. He got the victory, but he didn't look outstanding in that fight. So if he's the benchmark, I think Caldwell could very easily be right there. If he gets a finish against Higo, definitely he's there. Liam Og is outside the office trying to put us off here. So we will move on to the next fight on that card, and this is an interesting one. We kind of touched on it earlier.
Yeah.
Austin Vanderford against Fabian Edwards. What do you make of this fight?
Just putting out there that I fought on the same card as Edwards, so we both fought in the amateur days. He was a main event. I was Cole back on Battle Arena, and they were both signed for Bellator. So obviously I'm going with my boy. I think out of the 2 Edward brothers, you have Leon, his brother in the UFC. I think Fabian is the more athletic fighter. If you look at the 2 of them, Edwards is huge, like from shoulders down.
They're both huge guys, but
he's built like a Dorito, like he's massive. And I think his striking is just crisp.
Yeah.
If Vanderford wants to win, he has to bring him down to the floor. He has to wrestle him. But the lads over in England have incredible wrestling.
Yeah.
Like they're killing themselves out there. Like I think Edwards can hold off the submission, bit of anti-wrestling, and then put him out. I think once Edwards puts hands on Vanderford, he's not going to know what he's going to do with himself. He's going to start shooting for lazy kind of desperate takedowns, and it's going to be an early kind of knockout. I think this fight doesn't go past 2nd round.
And do you think that Fabian's wrestling defense is good enough to stave off Vanderford?
Absolutely. I think he can stave off that takedown, and once, because Vanderford has had his last 2 fights, he's shot for takedown beautifully and taken guys down. He's had no kind of trouble. He's had no kind of
he hasn't had that
anti-wrestling. He hasn't had that kind of like scrambles and all that. Like because his wrestling is amazing. It's very good, and he gets in and he takes guys down. And it's easy. I think he doesn't do that with Edwards. I think Edwards is too strong, too athletic for him to just take him down easily. Maybe Maybe round 1 he takes him down. He maybe gets a ground and pound, all that. But I don't see him win the fight. I see TKO in the second round.
See, I'm slightly against you here. Well, completely against you. I see Vanderford winning the fight. The one thing I will nod to your knowledge here is that, yes, we don't exactly know how good Vanderford's wrestling is just yet, because he hasn't fought anyone with very strong wrestling defense, and no one on his level really in the grappling part of the fight game.
Which is a testament to his grappling.
Yeah, 100%. But we look at the competition he's faced against the competition that Fabian Edwards faced, and there is a disparity there. I think Fabian Edwards, I mean, you even go back to his Bama days, he took on King Kauppinen in a very tough fight and got a victory in that. Yeah. He is coming off the loss to Van Steenis, but we know that Van Steenis now is probably one of the top guys in that division.
And that was a tough fight. That was a good fight back in Milan, I think it was.
Yeah,
it was a good fight.
Phenomenal. All that said, I do think that Vanderford controls the wrestling in this one. I think that Fabian, to this point, maybe Ken Kauppinen would probably be the best example, but I don't think he's faced that offensive wrestling. And I don't think we've even seen the best of Vanderford's offensive wrestling just yet. But it's just from watching him, I think his timing is so perfect when he shoots in.
No, it is.
And we haven't seen him be forced to put his takedowns together or string them together. I think if he's able to do that, I think he gets a relatively straightforward decision victory in this one. But Fabian Edwards is legit. Like, if Fabian Edwards can keep this on the feet, for sure, Fabian Edwards picks up the victory in this.
Awesome fight for Bellator. Like, and if we look, I love saying it, but Bellator have knocked it out of the park again for another time against the UFC. The UFC card it's meh. It's not great. Like,
there are some great fights on it, but if you look down the card, yeah.
If you look at the card from top to bottom of Bellator, there's absolute stars there. Do you know?
Yeah.
There's fights that we haven't even looked at, like Valerie Ludo.
Tons of them.
Grant Neal.
Sada Wad is coming back to take on Nate Andrews.
The Israeli fighter Avia Ghazali.
Aviv Gonzalez. Yeah.
Absolute great fights there, like top, and they're all undercard fights.
Yeah.
Do you know, if you look at the undercard for the UFC fight, it's lacking. Do you know, I think it's just another testament to Bellator matchmaking that there's another card knocked out of the park. Like,
and you mentioned as well, there's Tyree Fortune is competing there, and again, that's two guys that are 5-0, two contenders at 205 pounds, and he's Terrell Fortune's younger brother.
I
believe. Yeah, I mean, you're keeping a close eye on Terrell and those boys, and I suppose you'll be keeping a close eye on
the Davian fight.
Davian Franklin as well.
Realistically, a 2-0 fighter. He goes into this 3-0. Like, I'll be 1-0 after July, so it's
a perfect first move in Bellator. Yeah,
absolutely.
Very good. Without further ado, we will move on to the UFC card, and the main event in that one, we do have Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt, and we know what these two guys are about. Both are big hitters. Rob Font, of course, on a 3-fight win streak, wins over Marlon Moraes, Ricky Simon, and Sergio Pettis, who is now the Bellator bantamweight champion, interestingly. And you have Cody Garbrandt on the other side, who's coming off that huge KO victory against Rafael Assunção, one of the contenders of the year for Knockout of the Year last year. But before that, he had the 3-fight lose streak, and I think there was a lot of emphasis put on that 3-fight lose streak because he was unbeaten to that point. But I think if you factor in the fact that two of them were Dillashaw back-to-back, and then he was not a big, huge break until the Munoz fight, and he got KO'd again. I think we're putting a little bit too much on the fact that he has been KO'd 3 times. And people are talking about Rob Font's boxing, which is phenomenal boxing, by the way. But I don't think he has that power that Garbrandt has in his hands. In 18 wins, he has 8 KOs, compared to Garbrandt, who in 12 wins has 10 KOs. I think Garbrandt touches you go absolutely to sleep. I think Font's got to put it on you to put you to sleep. And I don't know if he's got the pace to keep up with Garbrandt across 15 minutes or across 25 minutes, which I could be very wrong. I think he could very easily outpoint him, but I'd be leaning with Garbrandt to pick up a KO victory here. How do you see this one going? The
only doubt in my mind is Garbrandt was. I love Garbrandt. I think he's absolutely incredible. I think he's strong. He's going to be a champion again.
Yeah,
but he's been raving the last year about he got the long COVID. You know, he got COVID and he got the after effects afterwards, and he was complaining about having anxiety going into the gym. You know, he was complaining about he was coughing, he couldn't breathe and all that. Like his lungs were killing him. And this is the first fight since he has that. So that's a big factor in the back of my head. And you're talking about the gas tank. Is his gas tank the same if his lungs have been affected?
Yeah, but he has taken a little bit of time off. But I see what you're saying. I know there has been a lot of fighters have had major issues off of the back of COVID. But we've seen Cody, like my best example of Cody is the Dominic Cruz fight where he looked so comfortable in the pocket and outside for 25 minutes and didn't look even a scotch out of breath. So I think there's plenty there in the tank. But the argument to say that he could very easily be diminished is there. But I think there's a big question mark over that. Like, we don't know.
Yeah, that's the only doubt in my head, and because of that, I'm going to pick Font. I think Font's going to win. I think it's going to be KO.
Well, I mean, let's be fair. If it's been proven, if Garbrandt loses, he's going to sleep.
Yeah,
It'll be caught on something wild. They'll probably both be dropped a couple of times.
Didn't Andy have a stat against that? Wasn't it like something like that? He's called like the tough chin or something, but he's been put down in all of his fights.
Well,
there's been a knockdown in every single one of his fights.
So yeah, the record, there's been a knockdown in every one of his fights, and his record for knockdowns that he's knocked people down against him being knocked down is 10-5 currently. So there's been 15 knockdowns in his fights, but 4 of the opposite ones belong to TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah.
So TJ Dillashaw dropped him 4 times in 2 fights. And look, we know TJ was on the juice, so I mean, we won't put too much into that for now. Maybe they fight down the line.
Yeah.
But certainly an interesting fight. I think.
Definitely, yeah.
I think this is a big one for the 135-pound division because obviously we have the issues now at the top with Aljamain Sterling being out. But I can see an interim belt coming into play this year if Sterling isn't available by the end of the year. And I imagine it'll be Peter Yan versus somebody. So now's the time to put your name in that discussion. And I think a big KO for either in this one gets you right there, or at least one away from that fight.
Hasn't Sterling been talking about coming back though? He's been very vocal on social media about getting a few fights in.
Yeah, but I mean, he took the belt and ran.
Yeah.
I mean, has he actually been seen in person since he picked up the belt?
I think I seen one photo of him and it was in the hospital, and that was it.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, he's had the surgery and hopefully all going well. He is back by September, October, but I have my doubts. I think that this could be prolonged again. And I think if he's not back by the end of the year, for sure, definitely the UFC bring in an interim title.
Yeah, definitely.
To appease Peter Yan, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter Yan is absolutely fuming, and they're not going to get him to fight another body without some kind of title on the line.
There has to be something on the line for him. Like, he doesn't fight for nothing.
For sure. So there's huge stakes in all of the bantamweight fights at the moment.
Yeah.
Anyone that comes out and looks absolutely impressive, because myself and Liam touched about this on the podcast, any one of those guys 1 to 10 and even 1 to maybe 15 in that division with a huge win or 2 wins is a title contender. Yeah. There's some absolute killers in that division. We will move on to, and speaking about killers in a division, we'll move on to the co-main event in this one. And we have Yan Xuanan taking on Carla Esparza, former champion against up-and-coming contender. Yan Xuanan, for me, is one of the standout stars over the last couple of years in female MMA. She's gone 6-0, but it's completely under the radar. People haven't really been keeping track of it until the last 2, we'll say. Her last 3 fights, wins over Gedalia, Kowalkiewicz and Hill. She has 5 KOs in her record in 13 wins, but all 6 of her fights in the UFC have been decision victories. She's taking on Carla Esparza, who in her 8 victories in the UFC has 7 decisions. So my bet of the week is that one of my bets of the week is that this one 100% goes to the judges. I can't see a finish either side in this one. No. But Carla Esparza, look, she is a former champion and she looks like she's getting back to her best. She's on a 4-fight win streak and against tough contenders, Marina Rodriguez, Michelle Waterson, Alexa Grasso. I just think Yan Xuanan is possibly one of the next future champions. If she doesn't do it on this turnaround, I think she holds the belt at some point. First question to you, do you see the winner of this getting a shot at the belt right out the gap? Or do you think it's a rematch for Joanna or Veli? And I suppose, second question, who do you see picking this one up? For me, by the way, it is Yan Xuanan. She picks up a decision victory in this.
First question, I think it's a rematch. I think Rose and
Willie Zhang. Yeah.
Willie Zhang, a fight again. I wasn't even going to I was going to say Willie there, so I wasn't going to go near it. I think it's a rematch because it was I love Rose, and last time I was on ProAm I picked Rose to win. I love Rose, but I think it's a rematch because I think it needs to be. and you have Joanna on the sidelines, kind of waiting for a fight. I think the winner of the Jan and Carla fight doesn't. I'm gonna say the first names because the second names I'm not even gonna go near. I think the winner of that fight doesn't shoot up because there's a line. You know, it's a waiting line. I'd agree, which as well. I think Jan wins this. I think Carla is kind of. She's been in the UFC a while, and she's kind of
She's had some tough losses up there, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like she was a champion, but she won the champion by winning a tough season, and then got absolutely smashed by Joanna.
Yeah, you know, which a lot of people do, to be fair. But she never really. It took her a long time to recover from that loss. I think we're only kind of seeing Carla get back to the girl that was in tough now.
Yeah, but I still think that tough girl doesn't beat Jan, which is I think it's an absolute testament to the Asian fighters that are coming into the scene now. Like I think they're in comparison to the Russian fighters who are kind of coming out now. Like I think. If you see a name and it's a Chinese looking name, like you're getting scared. Same way if you see a Magomedov or a Joe Nurmagomedov, you get scared. You know, like you automatically see the V at the end of the name and you're like, oh,
I'm in for a fight here. Yeah.
So I think it's the same with the Asian fighters or the Kazakhstani fighters. I think there's a huge market there that's only getting poached now. Like so it's absolutely crazy.
It's interesting though that the wave seems to be coming in the women's divisions from China.
Yeah.
And the wave, obviously, in the men seems to be coming from the Eastern Bloc. And as well as that, what I would say is we kind of know what we're getting from the Eastern Bloc. We know it's going to be wrestling heavy and grinding. Yeah. Some of them have great striking, don't get me wrong, but we kind of know that that grappling game is going to be fucking intense. Yeah. Whereas with the Chinese women that are coming over, they seem to be so well-rounded. Like, there's a few now that have kind of burst on the scene in the last few years, and we even look over to one and some of the women over there. They could be UFC champions if they made the transition over. But definitely an interesting one to watch. Do you think at some point that we do get an all-China UFC title in the strawweight division, considering the strength of those two alone? You see, you're a big Rose fan. You think Rose hangs on to it?
I'm a huge Rose fan, but then I see Joanna. It's a tough fight for Rose, and I you know, it's a really tough division.
Yeah,
definitely. I see an all Chinese card coming eventually for a title. Maybe end of 2021. Maybe.
Yeah,
but I see Rose holding on to it for a while. I think she beats Yang again.
Yeah.
Maybe then you have you have Joanna then stepping against Rose, and then you have Yan and Zhang fight each other. Do you know?
Yeah,
that could be a good fight. But I definitely see a UFC in around Asia fairly soon because it's banned in China, right? Still,
I think that's they're actually after changing the laws over there. There are some parts of China where you can put on an event.
There's different provinces because I know because remember there was meant to be a card in Macau, wasn't there?
Yeah,
there was a UFC Macau and all that. Like,
they have had cards in Macau and they've had cards in Singapore and a few other places around.
Yeah.
But I think they've only had one now in China itself.
Yeah. But so look, I think there could be a great card there. You can have a huge because they have the
UFC PI there as well. Yeah, that's the only other one in the world. Yeah.
So like, there's huge talent coming from there. Like you can fill out a whole card there. Maybe have some foreign fighters come in and fight Chinese.
China versus the rest of the world. Yeah,
it could be class. It's just a testament to how MMA is growing everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
For a while there, it was just Brazil and America, and that was kind of it. Like, and Europe's exploding, Russia's always exploding. Kind of the Eastern Bloc is always going to be powerful. Yeah. You know, you have the KSW kind of cards and all them. Like, it's huge,
massive. And now you have Brave as well coming from the Middle East, which are just phenomenal.
It's massive all over, and it just shows a testament to how MMA is just growing everywhere. You know, it's a huge sport now. Like, it's actually a globally recognized sport now. Like, you know.
And to give Andy Hickey another nod there, he did mention that there's another Sha Yilang is also fighting. I butchered that name as well. But Sha Yilang is also fighting on this card, and he's the 13th UFC Chinese fighter currently on the roster, which puts them 6th overall for amount of competitors currently signed with the UFC. Behind
the most.
America obviously is the most. Then you have Brazil, Canada, Russia, and England. So they're really moving up in the world with the amount of fighters they have now. They had a bad night at UFC 261 going 0-4.
Yeah.
But I imagine they bounce back in this one with at least one victory. Yeah, I don't know enough about Sha Yilan. I keep saying the fucking name even though I'm butchering it every time. It's like a tongue twister.
Where's that?
It's down the bottom of the card. You've Yilan Sha there against Joshua Kulabau, which is a tough fight, by the way. Kulabau is no joke.
Yancey's come back as well. Fuck, he's low on the undercard as well. Jesus.
Yeah, there is some good fights down this card.
Court McGee.
And Court McGee is a tough one there against Claudio Silva as well.
Didn't Andy have a stat for Court McGee, wasn't it? I saw.
So yeah, Court McGee and Claudio Silva, between them are 18 years on the roster accumulatively, and neither has a finish by strikes.
Fuck.
So yeah, that's another bet to avoid this weekend.
Or throw money on it.
Absolutely fucking that. You get good odds though.
Yeah, class odds.
We do need to touch on the last fight of the card that we have picked for our picks, and that is a European man, Jack Hermansen, who's a former Cage Warriors middleweight champion, is taking on Edmund Shabazzian. Hermansen, of course, is coming off that loss to Vittori, but he does have that big win over Gastelum previous to that, and it seemed to be there was a lot of hype on him after the Gastelum fight. The fight with Till fell out, and I think he's lost a bit of that momentum. Similarly to that, though, you had Edmund Shabazzian, who previous to last year, a lot of people were picking as the next big contender in that weight class, and that loss to Brunson damaged his credibility quite a bit, and I think it was just a fashion that he got taken out in that fight. I don't think did him any favours. For me, I know we're kind of going to differ on this, I think, but for me, I think Hermansen is a little bit too much of a veteran for him. I think he gets a finish late in this one, a TKO finish late in this one.
TKO finish, really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I know what you're saying, that if he wins it, it's most likely going to be submission or decision, but I think he basically runs out Edmund's gas tank late on and gets a TKO. Are
you saying TKO from standing, or are you putting TKO on the floor as well into this?
On the floor as well into it. I just think he gets enough to wear him out and finish it with strikes.
I'd agree with you. I already thought about this one now because I thought about it more. I think Jack wins, but I see it go to the floor. I don't see a stand.
Yeah.
I see also TKO finish, but I don't see a standing TKO finish. I see it's a floor. I see him taking him down, getting top, and just grinding him out.
Yeah.
I don't think Edmund gets up after getting taken down.
Yeah, I think he's a very tough night at the office if this one hits the mat. Yeah. The one thing here though is I can actually see Jack wanting to exchange with him on the feet. I think like if
ego.
Yeah, especially you look at Jack's two last losses, Cannonier and Vittori. I think he's he wants to prove that he's not a whipping boy in this division, and he's going up against an up-and-coming striker, and let's be fair, Edmund Shabazzian, that's what he is as a striker. If this one hits the mat, he's Hermansen's expected to win. I can see him for at least the first round of this fight, trying to take him on the feet, especially with the fact that Brunson finished him in the last one.
Yeah, that's kind of an ego thing, like putting a statement out there. But I think if he does that, I think Edmund sparks him. I think that's a danger.
Yeah.
I think if he goes in there and plays smart and takes him down and grinds, he wins. But if he starts playing like a dick measuring competition and tries to strike him, I think Edmund starches him. I think Edmund wins in the striking exchanges, but I don't see him going in there and having the dick measuring competition. I see him literally.
He is, to be fair, he's a very smart fighter.
Yeah. A veteran. I see him taking him down. I see him grinding. I don't see that kind of playing out of him trying to prove something.
Yeah,
he's got nothing to really prove. He fought Vittori last. Vittori's fighting for a title now next.
Which must be a massive boost to his confidence as well.
You lost to a title. That could have been you fighting for title.
Yeah.
I don't see if
Vittori had the claim of that he got the split decision. Yeah.
I don't see if Jack won that fight, him going for a title. I don't see that. But in his head now, he's almost a contender.
Yeah, so for sure.
I don't see him going in there and having any kind of doubts in his mind that he needs to prove something to everyone else. I see him definitely taking him down and grinding him. But if he fights the way you're thinking, Edmund sparks him.
Interesting one. And I do think the winner of this fight gets the Till fight next. If Till isn't, I think Till might actually be booked to fight.
No, he is. He's booked to fight Brunson. No,
is it Brunson? Possibly, yeah. But
he's been given.
I think the winner of that against the winner of this will be next for the belt, because I think Robert Whittaker is up next after Vittori.
Definitely, definitely. Bobby Knuckles gets the next shot.
Yeah, it should play out that way.
And then you have Rockhold then on the sideline shouting for everyone.
Yeah, Rockhold needs to go away and get a steel chin put into himself, and he can go back to fighting then maybe. We do need to get to our bets of the week because we are running a little bit out of time. Do you have a bet of the week prepared for us?
Yeah, I'm going to go KO finish by Cyborg, Edwards and Font, and then submission.
Fabian Edwards.
Yeah, and then a submission victory by
and Font by KO as well.
Yeah, and then a KO, and then a submission victory by Caldwell. So it's a 4.
Holy fucking shit. You're picking 300 to 1 odds here or whatever it is. We'll put up the odds on the screen, but I imagine that's a big bet. I'm being a complete bitch on this, and I'm picking just to win. I have Valerie Laredo, Jan Schwanan, and Justin Taffa. I need to get my numbers back up. I'm after creeping into the negative numbers.
I'm only an alternate, like.
Yeah. You can wing in a prayer it.
I've got good ones in the last fights, like, you know.
Yeah, it's easy when you're coming on and you can wing in a prayer it. You don't have your stats up every week.
It's also good when you pick good fights. Like, whatever you pick is going to be wrong. Like, you know?
To be fair, my record over the last 6 weeks has been almost bang on.
But
I'm up to 60% win streak at the moment.
But if we're going overall history, back in the Blood and Bandages days, you and Dave, like, you've had awful picks.
My record was fucking.
You had awful picks.
What bothers me is if I go back 2-3 years ago when I was writing for when I had the website MMACS.net, my picks were 60 to 70% religiously. I rarely dropped under 60% on a card, let alone overall. They were around 70%, I had 80% some weeks. And since I started the podcast, my picks have been a throw. Like, I mean, just go out and bet whoever I'm not against who I'm picking. Yeah.
But you picked a fairly safe one there. I don't see you going wrong in that one. I think my one is an absolute stunner, and there's money to be made.
I mean, yeah, but I don't see two of them even winning, let alone getting the finish. So we'll. It has been a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you very much for having me.
No problem at all, and hopefully again we'll get you on soon. You might be on the podcast on one of our upcoming podcasts as well. I don't know if you're hanging around to the podcast this evening or
news to me.
We'll see. Either way, thank you very much for coming on, and be sure and subscribe on YouTube and find us on Facebook, The MMA Opinion, and give us a like. Thank you very much.